Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Jayādvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Shamanamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande.
Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Monday, June 2nd, and today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 16, Text 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Raj, would you, or someone in the audience there, like to start us off?
Okay. I guess me, since it's just practical for me to do it. Tikshat Chakramam Vainya Uparya Kramatamapi Bhutanam Karuna Shashvad Arthanam Kshitivrittiman. The professional reciters continue. This King Prithu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be as tolerant as the earth itself. Do you want to plug that in? Will it be okay?
Make a little noise.
Well, that shouldn't be.
Is this part?
Yeah. Purport. Sorry about that. King Prithu is herein compared to the earthly planet as far as his tolerance is concerned. Although the earth is always trampled upon by men and animals, it still gives food to them by producing grains, fruits, and vegetables. As an ideal king, Maharaj Prithu is compared to the earthly planet, for even though some citizens might violate the rules and regulations of the state, he would still be tolerant and maintain them with fruits and grains. In other words, it is the duty of the king to look after the comforts of the citizens, even at the cost of his own personal convenience. This is not the case, however, in Kali Yuga, for in Kali Yuga, the kings and heads of state enjoy life at the cost of taxes exacted from the citizens. Such unfair taxation makes the people dishonest, and the people try to hide their income in so many ways. Eventually, the state will not be able to collect taxes, and consequently will not be able to meet its huge military and administrative expenses. Everything will collapse, and there will be chaos and disturbance all over the state. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Pradijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lodita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, thank you to the Alachua Wellas for kindly taking part this evening. And the rules are, if you have any questions or comments to make, just feel free to jump in, raise a hand, or just talk. The context appears to be not that the citizens were violating the rules and regulations of the state generally, but that they were trampling on the king's head. Upari akramatam. Going over his head and giving him grief. So that he could tolerate. Violation of the state rules in such a way as to create trouble in the state. Trouble means everyone's affected. That he was very strict about. But if they gave him a hard time, all right. That's all right. Amanina amanidin, trinadapi, shurichina, turodapi, sishna. Let me tolerate. In the modern states, in dictatorial states particularly, you don't dare do anything that angers the king, offends the king, in any way hints at anything concerning the king. That becomes the king's main business, to make sure that no one is on his case, that no one is in tension with him, in friction with him, in possible opposition to him. The main goal of the state is to keep the king's authority no matter what. The rest of the state can go to hell, but the king's authority has to be upheld. So in that regard, the king, he could tolerate it. It's not karuna. He was kind-hearted, all right. Like a child. The child causes trouble for the mother. The mother doesn't complain, hey, who do you think you are? Little child will cause some trouble. And the mother is very tolerant. So, Artanam Shiti Vrittimas. Artanam, those who are grieved. Ardar Tarti Jigyatsu Ganj. For them, he was like the earth. The earth is one of the seven mothers. So the earth is always maintains, is always tolerant and always maintaining. The earth is one of the mothers. So King Prithu is compared to the earth. He'll be very tolerant to the citizens. He'll be very much, Prabhupada said, forgetful and forgiving, like the earth itself. The earth puts up with so much still. Then there's, in the chat box, there's something.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, eventually, everything will collapse. Is Prabhupada referring to the end of Kali Yuga or something coming up soon?
Soon. Maybe soon, maybe not in decades or whatever. But no, this doesn't wait till Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, there's people or animals at the end. But it's already going on. The states jack up the taxes. They find every way to tax and tax and tax and tax. And then the result is, they're squeezing me. What do I do? Well, I hide my income. Because they can't tax what they don't know about. So then all the citizens become dishonest. They hide their income. And then more and more they find ways to evade and avoid taxation. And then the state can't run. It already most likely jacks up its budget for useless projects, where the point, I could tell the story, but often the point of the project is not the project, not the goal of the project, but it's to have a project going so that you can distribute money to your friends and supporters, the people to whom you're obliged in different ways. As long as the project is going on, the money is flowing through the pipeline, and everything is good. So you get an overinflated state budget where so much of the money is being siphoned off by those at the top, and the benefits are not being returned to the citizens. So therefore the citizens are hiding their income, hiding their income, hiding their income. The state is going deeper and deeper into debt. And finally there's chaos and collapse. You can't pay we saw that some years ago. The government just shut down, right? They stopped paying people. It didn't have the money to pay its employees, and there was considerable disturbance. As an aside, well, it really should be aside, but anyway. We had one devotee who was employed by the Federal Reserve Bank. His salary was not at all affected because the Federal Reserve Bank is not owned by the United States government. So his salary wasn't touched. We shall not go further into that. Yeah, so this is pointing not to the end of time, but really to our own time, that the government goes hugely into debt. I heard that the United States government, the United States of America used to be the #1 creditor nation in the world. It's now the #1 debtor nation in the world. So how do such things happen? So any state can be managed that way. And eventually you can't maintain. And so people are looking, when will this program collapse? When will that program collapse? We can't depend on this, we can't depend on that. So we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. So then this state starts becoming unraveled, and we have problems. Ask questions.
Thieves and rogues.
Thieves and rogues.
Head of, in charge.
Plunderers. The dasyu prayeshu rajashu. And the point is made, I think, by one of the commentators that a dasyu is not a thief, he's a plunderer, not a pickpocket. You know, a pickpocket, you don't even know till later that you lost your wallet or your mobile or whatever. But a plunderer, oh, you know, because he's beaten you or he's held you up at gunpoint. That's a dasyu, plunderer.
Takes everything.
And in Kali Yuga, these things, we won't spend the whole class talking about what governments do. Okay, yes, there's another comment there.
Yes. Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, some actions can't be forgiven. Where is the line to be forgiving and not?
Well, the point that seems to present itself here is that the king tolerates offenses to himself. The king tolerates offenses to himself. He doesn't tolerate transgressions of the law. Well, you murdered someone, okay, you stole this, you stole that. Well, no, on these things he was very strict. Prabhupada, and the king should be, Prabhupada cites that in Jaipur, thieves were punished by having their hands cut off, which is a strong disincentive to stealing for those who like to have two hands. Strong. In Singapore, the government is strong that way. You might remember there was some incident of some half-American boy, I think, who was caught doing graffiti on the public transport cars, and he was sentenced to X number of strokes with a cane, which is not a gentle stroke. You get hit by a cane, that's a strong punishment. And I forget, 10 strokes, say. And he was implored by the mother, he was implored by even heads of state, because he was half American. The American president, I think, asked for some mercy. And other heads of state, somehow it became a big thing. And so the head of state of Singapore conceded that the requests of such important men should not be disregarded. And so he reduced it to like 8. They're very strong. And many states, still, you find that government is very strong. You get out of line, you are going to have it come down on your head. And that serves as a strong disincentive. People know that the government is strong, I do something, I'll be caught, I'll be punished, they don't mess around. We hear that when King Vena took charge, all the thieves fled because they knew this guy is tough. He had other problems, but in that regard, he was effective. So it's not indicated here that the king tolerated nonsense in the state, just like our Parikshit Maharaj. Kali was beating the bull. You're dying right now. You're dead. No tolerance, let's consider, immediately challenged that kind of government. But if there was some offense to the king, then all right, that we tolerate. That's, what is it? It comes with the territory. You know, if you're in charge, somebody has to criticize you. Which is, again, is not usually what we find for autocratic heads of state. But for an ideal king like Prithu, all right, let them criticize me. Not a problem. Forgive and forget. Yes? Sure.
They used to have those court gestures also.
Court jesters.
That would make.
Yeah, we find this. I don't know how it worked in the Vedic culture, although we do find some stories that indicate it. But we find elsewhere that the court jester had a certain in. He had in with the king. He could criticize the king, and in that way advise the king. Actually, he could advise the king.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Gopalbhan. Yeah. What's the difference between you and a fool? 3 feet.
3 feet, sir.
There's a more sober version. Those who've read King Lear can see how, right? The fool, the jesters, sometimes called a fool, how the fool really admonishes the king, practically speaking. Yes?
I might even suggest that aside from the king being kind-hearted and tolerant, that he'll accept criticism or someone jumping on his head, whatever. I think that also, beyond the king being tolerant, has a very positive social influence. That a leader should be amenable to criticism, to advice, to correction.
Yeah, the leader should be amenable to advice. He's not just callous. We find that Lord Ramchandra goes incognito to find out what people are saying about him. Not so that he can beat on their heads, but so that he can find out, am I doing something that's dissatisfying to my citizens? They may not want to tell me to my face, but are they happy or not? Are they satisfied or not? So he mixes with the people to find that out. So that was the spirit of these ideal kings, like a father, like a father to the citizens, not a despot, and certainly not someone who's just living off the citizens. I think God has sent me these citizens to suck the life out of these fools that I can steal from. But he's like a father. The father doesn't, raid the kid's piggy bank. He's kind to the children. He wants their welfare. So that spirit.
Murari Gupta
Yeah.
Prabhu writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you tell us what Srila Prabhupada was tolerant and intolerant of?
The same things. Sometimes he can be tolerant and sometimes intolerant. But certainly, it would sometimes be hard to predict, because he could be, when you'd think he'd come down heavy, he'd be very careful. Or, what's the word? Lenient, thank you. He'd be lenient. And sometimes when you'd think he'd be lenient, he wouldn't give an inch. So sometimes be hard to know. But his principles seem to be that what was the welfare of the society and what was the welfare of the person. Those considerations were especially at the front. And sometimes also, he certainly wasn't tolerant of criticism of the Shastras, the Acharyas, the personality of Godhead. That he was not. Yes, you make jokes about Krishna and criticize and this and that. He didn't have space for that. He didn't have space for those kinds of offenses. But
even sometimes, I remember when Shamsundar was in London, he maybe wasn't following so perfectly, and a newer, younger devotee started to criticize, and Prabhupada was very angry, because
Yeah.
had it not been for Shamsundar, the temple wouldn't even be.
Our Detroit temple president, the story is famous, although perhaps should be more famous. He'd gotten that marvelous building that we have in Detroit by enlisting Ambarish Prabhu and Lekashavanti Mataji to contribute. And at some point later, the devotees ousted him. They said he's not following the regular principles, we don't see him at the morning programs, or whatever they had various issues concerning what he was doing. And so they held a meeting, and I think there's something in the old ISKCON laws, you could hold a meeting, and the majority decided that he should be replaced by another devotee. I forget his Madhavananda names. Anyway, one replaced. And then Prabhupada came back to Detroit after some time. Where's Govardhan? Well, Srila Prabhupada, he wasn't following the regulative principles, and so we asked him to step down because he wasn't following the regulative principles. How do you know? Are you following the regulative principles? Prabhupada, he wasn't chanting 16 rounds even. How do you know? How is it your business? That sort of, I wasn't there, so I don't have it exact, but like that. He wouldn't hear it. He has gotten this building, and now he has gone away, disappointed. Prabhupada reinstated him. We have our strong moral principles and so on. Prabhupada had a different set of considerations.
I'll leave aside whatever issues I have with that incident.
You were there.
No, of course not.
Okay.
Much
You're
too young for
newer.
that.
Yes.
But another incident that I think is in the Lilamrita, that my memory is not perfect. I want to say Govinda Dasi was cleaning in Prabhupada's room, and she was cleaning the wall or moving a picture or something, and she stepped on Prabhupada's asana that he was sitting on. And she said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I'm sorry, it's an offense, I shouldn't have stepped on it." And Prabhupada said, "To serve Krishna, you could even stand on my head."
Radharani in New York City.
Thank you. My faulty memory.
But as far as tolerance, there's also a Jadharani with a tack had fallen, and Prabhupada stepped on the tack, and he just very silently removed the tack and never said anything.
But when one time someone put salt instead of sugar in the Jaranamrita,
Los Angeles.
2 days in a row. Get someone intelligent.
Put someone responsible in charge. Yeah.
In her, to her credit, the salt had been mislabeled in the kitchen. The container said sugar.
I can't hear a word, people. I was going to ask that. People are not able to hear. Thank you for letting us know. Yeah, the 2 incidents were raised. One where Jadharani was somehow stepped on Prabhupada's sitting place at 26 2nd Avenue up in his apartment. And she apologized, "Swamiji, I'm so sorry." Prabhupada said, "For Krishna service, you can stand on my head." And then, sort of in contrast, the famous incident in Los Angeles where the Pujari had put salt in the Charanamrita instead of sugar, and Prabhupada took the Charanamrita, was not at all pleased and said, put someone responsible in charge. I remember seeing Prabhupada tolerating. There was one lady, she was a rebellious person. We won't go into what kind of person she was, but she was a rebellious person. And she said something, and Prabhupada said, you should not be so, I forget what it was, so proud, perhaps, or not be so this or that. She said, I'm not. I saw Prabhupada just, what's the word he was? Just froze a little bit, or just, you could practically see shock a little bit in Prabhupada's system. He just, but he took it and didn't say anything more. This is his disciple, such a disciple. But Prabhupada didn't take it further. Clearly a troubled person and a person who doesn't know how to behave toward the spirit, how to respect the spiritual master. So Prabhupada could be tolerant, and Prabhupada could be intolerant also, and especially to instruct. He could tolerate, even sort of serious disrespect if he thought it worthwhile, or else he could be immediately on it. Someone comes in and doesn't offer obeisances properly. Immediately, this is a sign of ignorance, this is a sign of this. Someone comes in and offers obeisances like this. Prabhupada said, what is this chopping? It's the duty of the spiritual master to train the disciples. Shrutakirti says that Prabhupada didn't chew him out because he knew I couldn't take it. And others Prabhupada would always smash. So it's very much his individual discretion as a teacher and as the founder Acharya, what he's going to tolerate, what he's not going to tolerate at all. And it's worth studying. It's not just say, what did he tolerate, what didn't he tolerate? You study the Prabhupada Lilamrita, study Prabhupada's history, and you get so many instructive insights. But one thing we could say is that it's not always what we expected. And we get, all moral, and we invoke, we take out our banners ordered from some karmi moralists. Zero tolerance, zero tolerance.
Right.
Just while we're on it, Brajbi Hari Prabhu works in conflict resolution. Where I come from, they know that zero tolerance doesn't work. So we're, as often we are in ISKCON when we pick up stuff from outside, we're something like 12 to 15 years behind the time. Karmis have already discovered that doesn't work, and we pick it up as being like the absolute truth or the highest standard of Vaishnava behavior, which means that well, it's not my place to say fools. Yes?
Would that be a reflection of Krishna's tolerance for individual tolerance for us?
Yes, Krishna is also tolerant.
So will he kind of tolerate certain behaviors from certain people, but he wouldn't tolerate that same behavior from another person.
Yes. He,
Depending on, I guess, the relationship that they have.
yes, Krishna can tolerate, from his devotees, he can tolerate so many things. And from a rascal, nothing. What is that? Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyaha. Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone. No one's my favorite. No one's my enemy. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayite teshu chapyam. But one who's my devotee, he's in me and I'm in him. They don't know anyone but me, I don't know anyone but him. That's Krishna. That was mentioned by Karuna this morning. I don't know anyone but him, he doesn't know anyone but me. Those who are devoted to Krishna, Krishna said in third canto, you'll find it coming up in coming verses. I'll lop off my right arm for my devotee. Just like we find sometimes some war hero, he can do something that might not be tolerated with someone else, but he gave his life for his country. So how much will they tolerate, indulge him? Not that he can do any, Prabhupada said, you kill even one man when you're out of uniform. That's, when you're out of the military, you go to the gallows and you kill 100 men and you get a medal when it's your duty. But still, when someone's done something for us, we're indebted. And we feel that this person did so much for me. So Krishna is the original person in that category, that he's so tolerant. And then he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's more tolerant. Okay. Yes?
Without going into the details, at one moment in our history, there was some uproar about some problems in leadership and so forth, and there was a meeting, and a bunch of devotees were very adamant that pull this one down, tear this one down, blah, 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 and they're just going on, heavy criticisms, and Rabindra Swarup was at that meeting, and he marked that afterwards, every one of the most serious critics fell down. Every one of them, he said.
There was some meeting and there was criticism of various leaders, and you had this, and then all of the biggest critics, Rabindra Swarup Prabhu observed later that they all fell down. The devotee is dear to Krishna. The devotees are dear to Krishna. Prabhupada said, like the pet dog of Krishna. The master has so much affection for the dog. The parent has so much affection for the little child. You attack the dog, you attack the child. It's all over for you. And on the opposite side, Prabhupada said a big man, you can't bribe him, you can't get near him, but you give a little candy to his child, and the man says, oh, such a nice man. Or you pat his dog, and he thinks, oh, a very nice dog. So, in one sense, this is the secret of Krishna consciousness. If we can please the devotee, then Krishna becomes pleased. Yasya prasadad, bhagavat prasada. And yasya prasadad, nagatir kutopi. If we can please the spiritual master, Krishna is pleased. And if we dissatisfy the spiritual master, we're nowhere. Nagatir kutopi means you're nowhere. A simple thing, just if we can please the spiritual master, how important that is. Yes, Jayādvaita.
Mark, in regards to criticizing, what do you think about statement that unless we're ready to serve that person in the most menial way, we have no right to correct them?
Let's see what's going on here. Is this supposed to do better? Maybe it can be raised from here. It's off. One of those descending microphones. Descending process.
You know what happens, it keeps getting moved around when they're
I
tightened.
know exactly.
Is that all right?
Okay. What do I think about the statement that unless we're prepared to act as the most menial servant of someone, we're not in a position to criticize them or correct them? I've never heard that, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't think the father has to be prepared to act as the most menial servant of the son before he can criticize, or that the spiritual master has to be willing to act as the most menial servant of the disciple before he can criticize. It's his duty to criticize. He may sometimes, take some very humble position in the relationship, but it's not his obligation. It's his duty to criticize. It's his duty to criticize. If he's a very humble person and he's, that's wonderful. But in any case, it's his duty. The administrative head, the spiritual master, the father, they must criticize. It's good for the person.
As a newer devotee, when I would speak a little harshly or improperly to a senior devotee, I feel like some sort of offend, like I made an offense. But so I'm learning. But I guess in your position, I'm just trying to understand.
Let me just repeat that first for the online folks. That as a newer devotee, if you would criticize,
Even speaking a little bit.
a little harshly towards some senior person, you'd feel like you committed an offense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just also now trying to understand, in your position, since it's your duty to kind of speak in that way or to correct your junior disciples, and in this way it's a service that pleases Krishna. After speaking in a critical way to your disciples, do you feel some sort of the sense of joy in devotional service, so to speak?
When I criticize the disciples, as a matter of duty, do I feel a kind of joy?
You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I get it.
can you feel it in your heart? Like, oh, Krishna's pleased.
When I can really land a good one out of it, I feel great. When I feel that it's helpful, or when I feel that it's been helpful, then I'm happy. And all right, I had to criticize him, but he got it. If I criticize and then I see that it didn't work or it seemed to make things worse, then it doesn't become a source of happiness. And it's, maybe it wasn't wrong to do it, but it didn't bring any happiness because it didn't do anything. Or maybe it did make things worse. Maybe it was the wrong move. So, not that just automatically, every time I criticize, I feel all warm inside. But sometimes when it's my duty and I criticize, I do feel good. Just to cite an incident, I got an email a couple of days ago in which someone, they're in kind of a managerial tension, sent me
a Bhagavatam class given by a local devotee, in which the devotee roundly criticized the local management. You know, someone has to speak some sense into them. Yeah. And just even saying, you know, I know that I shouldn't be saying this, but. And then they said it to me approvingly. So I said, you know, no, this is wrong. You don't hijack the Bhagavatam class to criticize the management. Even if you disagree, that's not what the Bhagavatam class is. It's not a place where you gripe about your issues with this or that manager. It was totally wrong. And you know, I'm favorable to the person who wrote to me in a particular issue that's going on, but this we don't have a space for. Yeah, respectable person, sincere devotee, the manager, and you're criticizing him like that? Who do you think you are? So he backtracked real fast. So I was happy about that. That was my duty. You know, you don't, whatever you think, you don't criticize those who dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. It's just wrong. And you especially don't use the Bhagavatam class. You don't sit on the seat of Vyas and badmouth the managers. You know, who do you think you are? I was happy about that. It was my duty, and it seemed like it was helpful.
Yes. I have a dear friend, Mahamuni Prabhu. Years ago, he was one of my Sankirtan leaders. Over the years, he had trained so many devotees, very dynamic. He's fallen into some ill health in recent years. But he was telling me a story about one devotee who was trying to get going, you know, because he was in a lot of Maya. And he was telling him, "You're not that body." The devotee had been suffering from some illness. He said, "No, you're not this body." And Mahamuni, actually, you know, you'd think that, nonsense still in life, Mahamuni kind of took that to heart. He said, okay, this devotee is, you know, he's suffering in different ways. I should be a little more sensitive. That was Mahamuni. Nice devotee.
That's so nice.
You're not this body.
Yeah, devotee doesn't just take pleasure in criticizing his subordinates. He wants to do something for them. Yes.
I've also heard it said just in ordinary dealings, with, especially with regards to children, somebody else's children, that unless you have some relationship with them to go and correct them, it's not effective. It doesn't bring a good result.
Criticizing someone else's children with whom you don't have a relationship is not likely to get a good result. In general, when the person knows that we're their well-wisher, then, like Prabhupada, we all took criticism from him like anything, because we all knew that it was good for us, that he was not, you know, just some crotchety old man who took pleasure in persecuting his underlings, but that he was our greatest well-wisher. And so he could criticize us 1,000 times, and the more the better. Yes. No. Yes.
Just on this point of criticizing devotees,
On this point of criticizing
we had
devotees.
this experience in Bhakti Center in San Francisco.
In Bhakti Center in San Francisco, you had an experience.
There was a new devotee we've been trying to cultivate,
A new devotee you'd been trying to
but
cultivate.
he was very critical, especially our head, who is like renowned, he's brahmachari.
It was critical of your, in charge there.
And so he's
Brahmachari.
done it a few times, and he's been warned every time, but on the third time we asked him not to come back.
Yeah.
Is that proper for a new devotee, or should we have given him more tolerance? Or is
He
that the
criticized the person in charge, you let him go, but on the third time, that's it, you're out. So is that proper
line? We just
for,
asked him to take a break.
Hmm?
We
asked him to take a break.
He didn't come back.
And he didn't come back. Well, and is that proper? It's hard for me to say because I'm not there, so for me to judge such and such situation from the other side of the country at a different time
I guess
with
what
people I
guess
don't know.
My question is that the line? Like being critical of devotees, whether you're a new person or an old person?
But again, it's not that it's a line, we look in the book and if we tick this box, and that box, you're out. But it's a matter of discretion. Those who are responsible look at it and say, well, he's a new guy, we should cut him some slack, he doesn't really know, so we're inclined to be lenient. But he criticized once, he criticized twice, the third time it was really over the top, and they, so you weigh it. That's what a judge does. He looks, well, on the one side this, on the other side that, and their discretion, they decided, well, tell him to take a break. And all right, he doesn't come back, maybe he goes someplace else, or maybe he comes back sometime later, or maybe he doesn't come back. So we really try not to send people away. We really try to help people come up. But sometimes you just say, it's too much. It makes everything impossible. It's not good for him if he just stays and criticizes the Vaishnavas. So, again, I can't second guess them, and there's not just a rule book where we say, okay, this or this. But we try to consider what's in the person's best interest, what's in the best interest of the community, the other devotees who are trying to make progress or whom we're trying to train. And you weigh all the things out and you come to a decision. It may not always be the best decision, but this is what we have to do when we're in charge or when we're responsible. The parent has to decide, do I swat the kid this time? Back in my day when it was legal and you didn't get thrown out of ISKCON for life or something because you swatted a kid. But back in the old days, do I swat this kid? Do I yell at him? Do I ignore it? What do I do? And as a parent, you make a call. This is what I'm going to do. Wait till your father comes. You showed him why he decided to tie the kid up. Yeah, so it's, but we hope that it's not just a reaction that, our own passions are disturbed, so we're gonna, and of course when we're less experienced, less mature, we do act out of inexperience and immaturity, but we hope that as we become more mature, more thoughtful, more Krishna conscious, more expert, we make better decisions. And still may be, he's got to go. Or it may be, okay, we call him in, we talk with him patiently, we know he had a tough life, whatever it is, and we extend ourselves and he turns out good. Or we realize that was useless. It's just throwing away compassion on a person who can't change. But Prabhupada he also said that to ask people to leave is very easy. To ask people to leave is very easy. So he said, what was it? Reform, not remove. That was, even, especially leaders would mess up. Or devotees, they've been serving, but they would have this and that kind of difficulties, maybe again and again. But Prabhupada's principle was reform. That we try to reform the person. We don't remove people so easily, because it's easy, get out. zero tolerance or whatever, just get out. And we don't care that you're here to serve Krishna. We're in charge, get out. We don't tolerate this. That's easy. Just look in the book, tick, reasons, boom, 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 boom. Decided, you're out. That's easy. But to reform a person, that's a higher principle. Now that doesn't mean that we tolerate every kind of nonsense and we're fools and we endanger people's lives because we're so tolerant and we again and again excuse the most heinous activities. Not like that. But we sincerely try to uplift people and be reluctant to throw people out. And they've come for Krishna consciousness, even if they have mixed motives. We know they have mixed motives. Everybody has mixed motives. But then the other side is there also. This is not like Prabhupada said, not a place for lazies and crazies. You want to take advantage of the temple just by getting free rents and doing nothing or doing foolish things, and we're supposed to just be the place, your staging ground for all your nonsense. No, you go home to your mother when you're ready to come back and be a grown-up. Come and join us. We're not like an institution for that. And especially in third world countries or countries where people don't have so much money, then it's real easy. I'll just join ISKCON and all of a sudden I've gone from being a pauper to being a king. So people join for that, and no, we're not that. We're not here to just give you a wonderful material life while you make a pretense of devotional service and put your hand in the treasury, or what is it, drill a hole into the pipeline and put in a straw. And Prabhupada didn't have space for that. So all of these things require mature judgment. So how ideal a king Prithu Maharaj was, that's the point. That he from his genuine feeling, he felt like the father of the citizens, and he knew when to take out the cane and the danda and punish, and he knew when to be tolerant. So he was an ideal king. We're at the end of our time, so we can talk more offline, but if we can take advantage of Advaita Acharya Prabhu's presence again and have some more kirtan. And again, I'm going to let the kirtan go as long as it wants to go, and the devotees can stay or go at their, according to what they want to or need to do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vati. Hare Krishna. So, fortunate to have your presence. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I can't see this if it's positioned up. That's good.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama,
Jayādvaita Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.